how many of y'all are sugared up on Halloween? Woohoo!
We're working
Welcome
on
to
it.
the show, everybody. All right.
I took an extra shot.
Oh man, Mama bought this big old bowl of candy, and she's been out there with the trick or treaters, and she put her coveralls on and her makeup on, and she's out there scaring the hell out of little ones, and I'm in here scaring the hell out of our damn viewers. Welcome to the show, everybody. I see we got Chuck in here. The boss lady's here. Y'all tighten up.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh.
She's got a wrench, and I heard her say she's not afraid to hit you with it. So make sure you stay on point. Looks like we got Dirt Road Cinderella. Kevin Smith is in here. Chuck, hey, what's up? King Bob. Got a bunch of people in here. As many of you know, I'm Mike, the Scale Model Outlaw. This is my awesome co-host. And who are you?
Jason from KRD.
And I'm Bruce.
Where is he? Where is he? Let me point at it. He's had a rough day and a rough couple days. So let's tip our hats to our awesome super producer, Mr. Bruce. Talk to us about yourself, Mr. Bruce.
I'm the guy that pushes all the buttons. And sometimes it's the wrong buttons.
He does more than just push buttons.
We've had a sick puppy dog for the last 2 days, so we're a little on the frazzle side, but we're here. Show's got to go on.
That's right. Show's got to go on, man. Well, we're hoping that your puppy dog gets better. I know me and Jason both have dogs, and I know you do. And we're hope, crossing our fingers, giving you prayers and sending stuff up that the puppy dog gets better and you get it figured out.
Yep. Prayers for the puppy dog.
Prayers for the puppy dog. But that being said, we have a very different guest tonight. A good guest for sure, but a different guest. We've been fortunate enough to make friends with the Model Insanity podcast, and those guys over there. Now they do where we're car centric, right? We're all car guys. Yep. I know that Bruce, you do a lot of different stuff, but we have the pleasure of having an awesome dude on tonight that does all kinds of builds. He does do cars, he does armor, aircraft, sci-fi, you name it. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Mr. Rob Adams from the Model Insanity podcast.
We're gonna run a little clip just before he gets here.
Okay, let's run the clip for him. All right. Enjoy the vlog.
Hey, Rob.
Welcome to the show, Mr. Rob.
Hi, Rob.
How you doing?
Hey, very good. How are you guys?
How's things in Canada?
Chilly. Getting chilly, anyways.
Awesome. I'm sure you just saw the put together that we did for Rob, and he sent us some pictures, and Bruce is awesome, was able to put that together. That's just a taste of what you do, right? I mean, you do a lot of different stuff, and we've been looking for somebody like you to come on here to kind of, to use Jason's words, bridge the gap and bring some new people in. You know, you do the armor, the aircraft, the figures, and all that. So we're hoping that you're going to be our bridge that gets us from car centric over to a little bit of everything. So welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. You know, it's all just plastic, right? So
Correct.
There's no point in pigeonholing yourself into just one genre. I don't think. I think you're doing yourself a disservice.
Correct.
Doing that, because you know that next kit that you pull out, Bandai, whatever, might be your next newest favorite thing to do, right? And I've never been afraid of anything and go, I don't like that. I don't like that. And I've done subjects that I don't even like and enjoyed the build and the kit and everything. And all of a sudden you kind of do like that subject, you know? So
So when you started building models, what was your first kit? Was it cars? Was it planes? What was it?
It was a car. You'll be happy to know. It was a monogram 1958 Thunderbird.
Okay.
Chose that because that was my mom's birth year, and it was not an easy car to build anyways, and especially not for a first kit. So it was a disaster.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy every moment of it, and that kept going. So
that's awesome.
So was your first car build like most of ours? The whole tube of Tester's red glue, some square bottle enamel paint that was gopped on there way too thick. Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah,
that's a standard story across the board.
And learning how to use.
We're all kind of in the same age group, so I think we all went through that at the same time.
Learning how to use that glue was a nightmare too, because it was like, oh, the part doesn't stick. Put more glue on. That's not how this really works.
No.
Less is more.
Yeah. I did learn a really cool trick, and I don't mean to throw a rock in the middle of the road, but I did learn a really cool trick about that red Tester's glue. And a friend of mine, I'm trying to remember who it was. It might have been Fred. I think it might have been Fred, but a little bit of the Tester's glue and the red glue, and then hit it with a daub or just a touch of Tamiya Thin. He said it sets up just like that. I haven't tried it yet, but he's the guy that would know. So I'm interested in trying that. I not to chase rabbits, but I just thought of that.
I'm absolutely not interested in trying that. I'll just stick with the extra thin.
He said, no, I'll stick to the thin glue and the stuff that I know and trust. I hear you.
Yeah. I do have a tube of it, though. I occasionally like to smell it just to bring back memories. But
right. Takes you back to 1985.
Yeah.
So you're listening. So you're sniffing the glue while you're listening to Michael Jackson. Hey, listen, I've been there. I know.
Yeah. Don't judge me.
I'm not judging. I'm not judging. I'm in the boat with you. I'm paddling right next to you, Rob.
So what do you like the best then? Do you like tank kits, planes? Do you like figurines? What seems to be your favorite building right now that you're doing the most?
I do planes and armor pretty much equally.
Okay.
The figures are like they're pretty large scale, like they're the big ones.
Yeah.
So I can use my airbrush rather than a paintbrush. But primarily it's like alternate aircraft, tanks. I mean, this year I did mostly aircraft. The year before that, mostly tanks. So it all depends on what grabs my fancy. I like to squeeze a 1/9 bike in every year if I can.
Okay.
And I just picked up a car kit not that long ago that I'm going to give it a go. So
awesome. Yeah, I seen that picture of that Freddy Krueger you did. That thing is beautiful. I mean, wow, looks really cool.
Yeah, he was fun to paint. I actually have another one. So
yeah.
So I learned a lot from that one, and I can definitely improve on it. But it's just a cool. Freddy's my hero, and it's Halloween today too. So
exactly, it's perfect. Yeah. For me, it's the Grogu. It's the Grogu guy with the frog in his mouth.
Yeah,
that is just too cool, right?
That was a turkey shoot build, so I only had 3 days to build that. So
let's talk about that for a minute. Now, do you guys host that, or is that something that So by you guys, I mean the Mono Insanity podcast hosts the turkey group build. Tell us about
that. So I'm at a severe disadvantage because I live in Canada and it's done over the U.S. Thanksgiving long weekend. So I don't get the privilege of the Thursday and the Friday. I got to work. But it's basically a 4-day build. So you pick a kit. The idea is to pick something that's kind of out of your wheelhouse, and just have some fun with it. Mm-hmm. You could pick something that's in your wheelhouse. It doesn't matter. The kit doesn't really matter. But it starts at midnight on Thursday and rolls all the way till midnight on Sunday. So you got 4 complete days to try and get something done. Take some nice photos. We put those into a calendar that you can purchase. And if you are one of the unlucky ones, you get stuck at the end of the calendar in a little picture square with your unfinished model. The finished ones also we do our best to try and put it on your birth month so that, it's your birth month. When you flip open the calendar, there's your model. It's pretty cool. So,
yeah.
And the Discord room is open 24 hours a day, and people are in there at all 8 hours of the night. We had lots of the posse guys join in last year and stuff. So it was really good. I think we had about 60 people doing it last year, and we're hoping for more this year. So
yeah, we're definitely we're talking about doing it, doing something out of our wheelhouse. All we've done is cars, so we thought about either doing a plane or a tank or something, and have fun and sit in the Discord with the rest of you fellows. I think that'd be a lot of fun over that weekend.
So, I mean, I know Jason knows, Bruce knows, but when you say Discord, how do they find the Model Insanity Discord?
You can go on our Facebook page, and it's the Modeling Insanity Facebook page, and it's pinned to the top of the page. So the link is always there. And you can tell Luca to stop writing in capitals.
I'm going to say, have you been watching the chat?
Yeah.
Luca's in here. He's like, what is that guy doing on there? Now, Rob, have you been on Luca's? Or yes, I know you have, because I was there. Yes, yeah. That's awesome, man. Luca's a great guy. We love him. We all know him as Luca, but his name's Matt, and we love him. And we had him on here. Him and Mark Batson. They were talking about the USAC build. I'm not sure how much you follow that, but the USAC build is a group build that it's basically USAC is unified scale. What is it?
Automotive content creators.
Content. So it's basically like for content creators, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, if you're a content creator of any kind, and every year they pick a different kit, and Matt and Mark Batson are behind that, and are basically started that, and it's probably what would I be stepping out on a limb, guys, if I said it's probably the biggest group builder of the year?
I'd say so.
I would say so. The 48-hour group build is awesome because you got 48 hours to build something. And I told you last night or the night before, Rob, when we were online and talking on the Discord, I said I built one airplane. That was my 48-hour group build.
Oh, yeah, the little eggplane. That's right.
Yeah, my eggplane. But quick question. All the different stuff that you do, your automotive, all the way to your tanks and stuff, what techniques do you think that maybe as a car modeler, if we're not paying attention to the tank guys, the airplane guys, what's probably the best, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, what's the best advice or the one thing that you could have somebody focus on if they're car centric, they're like myself. I have no relation to airplane or tanks or whatever, but what's the one technique that you would say from doing all the different stuff that you do that would transfer over and work very well with an automotive based deal? So for me, if I'm looking at it, I'm looking at these aircraft guys that do these dashes, their display panels or whatever they call it. For me, I'm watching that and looking at that to do my dash. To me, that's the closest relation to what I'm doing in a car to what I see you guys doing. What would you say, having done all of it?
I would say the biggest thing that you would want to learn or incorporate into your builds is learning how to do a pin wash and what colors of wash to use on which paint. So that provides you shadows and depth, right? Like, you can still pin wash, but yet keep it looking clean. Like, you know what I mean? So your panel lines and your doors, for example,
right,
drop some black in there and it just sharpens it right up and gives you that hard line that contrasts, right? Yeah. Same as your engines and your interiors. You got tan interior, put a dark brown in there and it'll sink into all the little grooves and everything. You clean it up and it just provides a lot of depth. And that's what a lot of people are afraid to try. And then, on top of that, once you do that, then you can start dry brushing and bring out some highlights. And that's where you start getting the realism, right?
Yep.
I'm sure that most of our viewers know what the pin wash is. Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about what your definition, and I know what it is, and there's probably plenty in here that do as well, but what's your definition of dry brushing? How do you go about dry brush? What does Rob Adams do when he's dry brushing?
Well, he takes his dry brush, right? Put the paint on your brush, get the bristles nice and wet. Take a piece of paper towel. A lot of guys now are using, they're calling them texture palettes. So they'll glue a bunch of greeblies onto a piece of styrene or whatever, and then then you can see what your brush is going to do before you take it to the model. Because if you haven't taken enough paint off, you'll get a big blob that you don't want.
Yeah.
And if you're doing acrylic paints, it's hard to get it off, right?
Yeah, it is.
So
yeah, very much so, yeah.
But the traditional way is just use a piece of paper towel, get most of it off. You can test it on your hand to see if it's leaving a little bit of paint. You want to take as much of it off as you can, because you don't want it to glob up, and you don't want it to be super obvious either, right? The whole point is and you're just using a shade, maybe a shade lighter, what your base color is, so that it just pops it, but it doesn't look
Right.
If
You
you
get a little bit of contrast.
Yeah, but you don't want to go too stark. You don't want to go like white over brown, because it won't look right. So
yeah, because dry brushing to a guy like me is you pick up the paintbrush and then you just like rub it on the part and hope that it gives you the look that you're looking for. It doesn't work like that.
No, it don't work that way.
But most folks are smarter than me.
Yeah, and
That's awesome.
I guess with dashes, taking some clear Mod Podge or Future, even for that matter, putting them in the gauges, to give it a little glass effect, that kind of stuff. It's there you go. It's the little details that when you start really looking at something, you're like, okay, So I would say focusing in on the details is one of the things that you should do.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. What about this layering thing? I know as I think it's with armor, I think it applies the most layering. So when you're layering a paint job, you're basically putting a coat down. Don't let me tell it. You tell it. What is layering, Rob? When you're layering of anything, you can do it for like a rust type build or whatever. Talk to me about layering.
I don't really do so much. I mean, I guess it's layering, but I usually build up all my colors over black. So what you're doing is using paint opacity to create variation within the paint job, right? So the more, obviously paint has a certain opacity. So once you've hit its maximum brightness level, that's as far as you can go with, unless you're going to lighten the paint more, right? Mm-hmm. But you can build it up where you want, leave the shadows darker and just build it up everywhere else. And you start getting that, you can get faded looks with that. You can get, it's just going between panel lines so that you're not, and that emphasizes all those things, right? And then, if you want to talk layering, well, so you do all of that. I mean, I've done planes where I spent hours masking off all the splinter camouflage and then painted whitewash over top of it all, but went super thin so you could just see that camouflage is still there. And it looks really cool. So that's layering too. And I mean, when you're airbrushing like that, you just got to know when to stop before you ruin all the work that you just did underneath, right? So
done that.
But I mean,
hence the purple pond. Crap! Just throw it in the purple pond.
I can honestly say I've never stripped a model. Never.
Wow.
I've stripped parts of a model, but never had to do the whole thing.
That's pretty good.
Like gas tanks are the worst. On
by that definition, I've never stripped a model either. But I can't tell you how many bodies of a car that I've dropped off at the purple pond. Which in our world, the body is like, the part that you see that's like 90% of everything.
So what brand of paint do you use?
Jason's got questions.
What brand of paint do you typically use then?
Mostly Tamiya.
Mostly Tamiya?
Yeah, I've got other stuff too. Like, it depends. I don't use Tamiya so much for hand brushing. It's more of you can, but you got to add retarder to it and all that stuff.
What do you use it for hand?
Vallejo. AK.
Okay.
I like lacquer paints, so I mix my Tamiya with Mr. Leveling Thinner.
Yep.
And AK Real Colors are the same kind of thing. You can mix them with Mr. Leveling Thinner, and that just sprays beautifully. Like, if anybody hasn't tried that in their Tamiya paint and they struggle with Tamiya paint, it'll take all the struggle out of it. Believe me.
Oh, we put that in everything. That Mr. Coupling Leveling Thinner. Even the Tamiya retarder, I use that a lot too. So.
Yep. And just so you know, the 400 is how many milliliters are in the bottle. It's not the formulation.
Exactly.
Everybody writes
milliliters, not
everybody writes. I'm using Mr. Leveling Thinner 400, and it's like it's all the same shit. It's just the size of the bottle.
Yeah.
But I don't say that. I educate them. You know, I'm not a beast online like some of us.
There is some gatekeepers out there for sure.
So a lot of guys like markers and some guys don't like markers. Now, being that you use AK products, have you tried AK's new colored marker set that they've released here? No, you don't like markers?
I have never. The only marker I have is a Molotov pen, which has its own ups and downs. But I just haven't seen them around anywhere. Everybody was picking them up at the Nationals and everything else when they were released. My local store hasn't got them, so I haven't jumped on the bandwagon yet. But I've heard a lot of people, you know, they're good for a lot of things, but not everything.
Right.
And the one problem that really is prominent with them is it doesn't match their actual paint line. The same color, they don't match.
Oh, they don't.
No.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So like outlining, say, hard edge camouflage or something like that, it's not really good for that, because when you spray the color, they don't match. So,
interesting. Because that was something that a lot of guys seem to really think, that being that we're coming from AK, it was going to correlate with their paint color chart that they already have. So that's interesting to know. So
and it should. I mean, it should be in conjunction. Yeah. It shouldn't be a completely. And I don't know how far off the colors are, but they're off enough that it's noticeable, right?
Right.
But so, you know, guys doing 48 scale tanks or whatever, they're doing all the road wheels, and they're like, "This shit is best. It's awesome. Like, it's so much easier than a paintbrush, right?" So,
right. So with you guys up in Canada, do you guys have a lot of hobby shops, or do you pretty much have to mail order everything that you build?
No, I've got a really awesome shop where I live.
Do you?
Which I'm fortunate, because not a lot of people have it. I've done 2 tours of it on my YouTube channel.
Okay.
It's called Avalon Hobbies. It's the biggest, littlest model shop in the world, I think I called it, or something. Shit's just stacked up to the ceiling. They got stuff tucked everywhere, but it's a well-stocked store. And so they're still alive. They're still out there. And then when I go to Calgary for a lot of shows, and they have 3 good-sized hobby shops there too. So
that's nice.
For me, I'm pretty fortunate. I can kind of get my hands on whatever I want without having to mail order it all.
Right, because shipping to Canada is kind of a pain in the butt, ain't it? Or
yep,
yeah,
it is. We're lucky. Andy just opened up shop up here too, so and he's doing $10 flat rate shipping anywhere in Canada. So that's a game changer for us.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah, that's really nice. That's really cool.
Hats off to Andy for that. But if you don't know who Andy is, that's Andy's hobby. What
hobby headquarters.
Yeah, Andy's hobby headquarters. I'm going to say Matt's going to throw a rock at me because I couldn't remember Andy's name.
I was waiting for
that. Matt's going to he's focusing on poor old Jimmy right now because Jimmy brought up the R word.
You know, I'm just saying. You know what doesn't need thinner? Rust-Oleum.
I was at this show, the Acme show. And for the car modelers, at least on the East Coast, if it's not the biggest, then it's tied with the biggest, which I think, between it and NLL East, which is in New Jersey, huge show. That's an IPMS show up there. And Acme's an IPMS show as well, but it's car-centric. Great show. Had a great time up there. And I was privileged to be involved in a 10 questions from Modeler. And they asked about that, who uses it. And I'm sitting at the table with the guy that won Best of Show that we now call King Sparkles. He's actually won Best of Show 2 years in a row. And I'm sitting with guys that are top end, high end model car builders. And they all passed on it. But I asked the question, the problem with Rust-Oleum that I see is the volume of paint that it puts out. So my question was, has anybody took the time to decant Rust-Oleum and run it through their airbrush? Call a spade. If you're not. I mean, everybody. Jimmy, I know you make it work, and good for you. That you're super. You're an exception to the rule for sure. But on average, Rust-Oleum is not the great or Rust-Oleum or any of the spray cans that you get at the hardware store. I'm not picking on Rust-Oleum, but I wonder what would happen if you decanted it and run it through an airbrush. Just throwing it out there.
Works good as long as you know what its base is, so you can thin it.
Yeah. I mean that.
And then let it be my question. Time to gas out too.
And really, if it's lacquer or enamel, you can use lacquer thinner on either one. Yeah, you got to make sure it gases out. I had a jar blow apart one time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it sits there and simmers away for like 24 hours, right?
Yep.
All the propellant and everything coming out of it.
Yep.
But and usually it's thin enough to spray right through your airbrush. At least that's been my experience with decanting. I used to just stick a straw on the nozzle, wrap it with white tack, and just spray it into a jar.
Yep.
It's a little messy, but it works. Instead of that one video where the guy's drilling holes into the can to try and get the paint out, it's like.
Did you see the guy that drilled a hole in the side of the can, a pressurized can, drills a hole in the side of it, and then says all you got to do is put a Schrader valve, which is basically the tube that you use to fill up your tire on your car, or your bicycle, or whatever, where you put the air in. He's like, yeah, all you got to do is put more air. I'm like, do you have any idea what's going to happen when you poke the side of that can? You're going to wear whatever paint's left in there. I don't know how he was doing it, but that was weird.
That sounds like
yeah, that's why you can't believe everything you see on the internet. I'm just learning that.
And that was that. And I was talking about Tamiya paint out of the can. I wasn't decanting Rust-Oleum. I've never tried that. I used it on a big yard owl that I painted for my wife's friend. But that's as far as I went with that.
I use Rust-Oleum to paint my lawn furniture with, but that doesn't mean you can't paint. I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah, just saying.
The problem is it just doesn't. You're right. It just doesn't come out thin enough. I mean, here's an experiment that maybe someone should try. Change the nozzles from a hobby can to a Rust-Oleum can and see if that makes a difference.
That's a great idea. That's an easier version of, because it just lays down, and it's designed to. It just lays down a lot of paint because that's what it's supposed to do. You know?
Yeah, everybody, on that rusty furniture or whatever, you want one coat coverage. You don't want to wait and reapply and reapply and reapply. That's so.
Exactly.
So again, I know, Jason, take a breath, right?
No, we're good.
How we use, and I say we, the car model centric, we use a lot of 3D printed stuff. Is that, I know Rob Riv, love him to death, even though I should punch him in the nose. When I go to New York, I'll punch him in the nose. But great guy, love him to death. He's actually an awesome guy. He just likes to bust. He likes to bust nuts. But I know he's an awesome. He doesn't even paint his models. He just puts that photo etch stuff down. But my question to you would be, and crap, I got wrapped up in Rob and I forgot what I was going to say because it was actually very prudent at the time, but I've forgotten. So Jason, go ahead, take over. I got to take a breath and remember.
3D print. You were talking about
3D printing. See, somebody had to remind me. I told you my memory is very short. But is there a lot of 3D printing in the aircraft tank stuff? Is there a lot going on there in 3D printing?
Yep. Lots of guys are doing ejection seats, instrument panels, and the instrument panels are just mind-blowing how realistic they look, and all the buttons and switches, and it's all in color too. You don't have to paint it.
Wow.
Yeah. And you just it's a little unnerving when you take your $100 cockpit kit, and you got to sand all the molded on detail off to put these on. But it's been my experience. They've all fit perfectly. I use them in pretty much every one of my aircraft, and they're awesome. But I know that I think Quinta's doing stuff for cars now too. Quinta Studios.
Okay.
Like they're doing like 3D printed license plates and dashboards and stuff like that.
That's what I was going to ask you, if you knew some companies out there that you could share with our viewers that maybe, are crossing the bridge like you do and go back and forth. I know that you guys have a friend in he does a lot of I call it overlanding stuff. I think you guys call it soft something or other, like the duffel bags.
Oh, stowage.
Soft stowage.
Yeah.
And that guy, he gave BG some stuff. He gave Jason Hanscom, which
Yeah,
our Jason, will tell you that Jason and I both, the Jason on here, and I are both very much influenced by and motivated and a mentor to Jason Hanscom, and he got some of that stuff. What's that guy's name and what's his website where you can find his stuff? Do you know?
Yeah, that's Steve Munzel from Value Gear Details. I'm good friends with him. Yeah, so
I got to see some of the stuff that BG put on his Toyota that he got from Value Gear, and it is amazing stuff, man. It's really cool, and it works. You know, it works automotive, especially if you're building an overlanding vehicle and that type of thing. And
he sculpts and casts that all by himself, all of it.
Wow.
And then I can't remember what he said. He's got like 300 and something sets now. His catalog is huge. And whenever you order something from him, you always get extra stuff. he sends in. He said he's got a bin just of extra stuff. You get a handful of that plus your order every time.
I actually listened to that podcast when you guys had him on, and it's not the junk stuff that didn't come out right, or you're not getting crap that you know. It's just okay. He needs some of that. And Matthew Inman from MCV is the same way. When you order stuff from him, he'll throw in a carburetor or he'll throw in something because he's an automotive. So he'll throw in something in there just as a little bonus, which is awesome, man. It's just great to have, you know, a little. It's like Christmas, right? Oh, I got all my stuff and I got something extra.
Yeah. Who doesn't like getting free shit? That's what he said on the podcast, right?
Who doesn't like getting free shit? True
and
story.
Apparently it was the car guys because he kept getting emails like, what the hell is this extra stuff in here? Well, just use it.
It's not that the car guys don't appreciate it. They're not used to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matthew, like I said, I'll tell a funny story and I'll make it as quick as I can. I ordered some stuff from Matthew and I got a bunch of extra stuff. And I literally was like, you know, maybe a carburetor here and then is one thing, but I got like a couple extra motors and whatever. And as a small businessman, I know what it's like to screw up an order or, you know, make a mistake. So I called him up instantly and I messaged him. I'm like, hey man, I got all this stuff. Not sure, you know, at that time we weren't friends. He knew who I was. I knew who he was. But I'm like, I don't know if you remember me, but I made this order and I got all this extra stuff. And he was like, call me, dummy. So I called him. He's like, yeah, I gave you that stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. But I was the same way. I was like, whoa, I thought maybe that he put my order in. I was worried about the customer that ordered the stuff that I got that wasn't getting it. I was trying to help him out, but he was like, and I mean, I gave it to you.
For an extra, 50 cents of resin or whatever it costs to have a customer for life, I think that's a good business plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And his daughter packed stuff up and literally, I think, and I might be speaking for him, but you order something, you're going to get a little something special in there. You're going to get some sort of a gift. And that's awesome, you know?
Well, it's the same with Scale Finishes, Jamestown. I ordered a bunch of paints, the movie car paints, and then he threw in his primer set for me. And I thought, wow, that was really cool. That's got to be a $40, $50 set of primers,
Yeah.
A movie car set? That sounds interesting.
Yeah, he's got paint colors mixed for movie cars. So he had Christine, which I love that movie. And then American Graffiti, he had the colors for the Milner Coupe. So I ordered those. He's got a nice set of groups of paint on his website. I mean, I've only spent a little bit of time on there, and you can get some serious time logged in on that website.
It's a rabbit hole.
It is a rabbit hole. Jamestown, we were blessed to have Jamestown on here, and I've been working, or actually, I'm going to say I've been working with, like puffing my chest out, but actually Jamestown's been working with me. He's like, I'm going to pick this little guy, but since I had like 300 subs and whatever, what a great guy. He his stuff is airbrush ready. and by that I mean, everybody has a different viscosity of paint that they want to spray, but technically it's ready to go. If you want to thin it down, you can. It's very workable stuff. But he has, and like Jason was saying, he has military colors, and these are paint code colors. It's not a color that he's like trying to match it. These are like he gets the paint code number. If you're building a classic car, or and he has military colors, so I can only assume the same way. Like, and you guys know the German aircraft. He can
FS
match
standard. They have FS standard in the U.S. and RLM standard in Germany.
Yeah.
So,
but he can match it, like, or at least what is the known code. He can match it.
Yeah. And he does everything too. He does cars, he does figures, he does armor. He's just an avid model enthusiast that went to the whole extreme of saying, hey, I can't find any paint that I like that is authentic, so I'm going to do my own gig here. So it's really cool. It was great to interview him.
Send me a link to that.
I will, Rob. I'll send you a link to him. He's a great guy, and I can get you a 10% discount code.
Hey, there we go. Nice.
But I'm looking at Matt, old Lucas E. He produces them resin casted stuff. He's like, you ain't getting nothing extra from me because I'm a jerk.
Oh yeah,
you're a jerk, Matt, but you're a lovable jerk. You're our jerk. You're like the modeling community jerk. We hate to love you, but we love you.
And now you know why he's not sending you any resin, because you just called him.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I think he has the same shipping guy as Chuck. He has the same mailman as Chuck.
But yeah, no.
So Rob, more about you, my man. You live in Canada.
I do, in a place called Medicine Hat in Alberta.
Medicine Hat.
Medicine Hat.
I thought we had some strange names from towns, but Medicine Hat. Like, where are you at? I'm in Medicine Hat. Well, what's the name of the town?
Yeah. Hey, in Newfoundland, there's even a town called Dildo. So, I mean,
well, there you go.
I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, we got some weird names up here. That's for sure.
Is that where Trudeau lives?
Yeah, he should be there.
Right?
I mean, let's not get political now. That's for another podcast.
Amen. My favorite one is, and you'll hear Jason Hanscom talking about it all the time, because this little town in New Hampshire actually hosts a show. It's called Where, New Hampshire. Where are you? I mean, where? No, where are you? It's like the guy on Third, right?
Yeah, that's funny.
That is funny.
Yeah, no, it's just I created the Model Makers Union Facebook page 5 years ago now. It's at almost 10,000 people, which is good.
Wow. We showed that in the preview, and I don't mean to cut you off, Rob, but we showed that in your little intro coming in. Y'all need to go check that out, because I'm on there, and you guys accept whatever you're building. Doesn't matter if it's aircraft, tanks, cars. Put it up there, and I get a lot of comments from that Model Makers Union, and Model Makers Union, right?
Yeah, Model Makers Union.
And I get a lot of responses back from those guys. They're like, "Oh, great job," or "That looks like crap," or whatever. It's always input, but you're right. It's all positive stuff.
Yeah, when I was getting back into all this, and then discovered that these modeling groups existed and whatever, I was never worried about posting my stuff. I could care less what you think of it, to be honest. But there was lots of places you'd go and they just tear people apart. Yeah. To the point where they're even pulling shit from other groups and bringing it over to their group to everybody have a point and a laugh at it. You know what I mean? Mm. And I was like, no, this is bullshit. So I created my own. I was standing in the shower and I was like, Model Makers Union. That sounds pretty cool. So I made it.
That's cool.
You could have left the shower part out, but that's literally where Jason and I and Bruce we kind of ran upon the same thing with a lot of negativity and people cutting each other up and drifting, going down rabbit holes. And that's really what inspired us to get started with this show, because it's all about positivity. And like I said, you're bridging us over to a different genre, and we're super excited about that. But like you said, I wasn't standing in the shower naked, but we were all hanging out and decided that, you know,
sometimes you do your best thinking in the shower. You know, what can I say?
I usually do my best thinking right next to the thing that's in the shower, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
All right.
On his phone texting us.
Right.
Hey, I got a great idea.
I got a great idea. Now that I feel more comfortable, I got a great idea.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what that was all about, and that's what led me to meet a whole bunch of the people I know now and everything. Like the social media, if you use it right, you can get some cool places with it. You know, that's why I'm here now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And go ahead, Jason. I've been taking up the time. I'm sure you got questions.
So then go ahead and tell us about your podcast. That's how I found you, is through Mike telling me about your podcast. Tell us about your podcast. Tell us about all your other hosts, because what's there, 5 of them on your?
There's 5 of us, yeah. Yeah. So actually, the way that all started was a guy named Jeff Hearn, who owns Scale Colors and Scale Colors 3D. So he does 3D printing and he's a paint manufacturer. I was doing a group build on the page in the group, and I just put up a post. Is anybody willing to sponsor an award or prize? Mm-hmm. And he messaged me, and then he started sending me his stuff. And then we just started talking, became friends again, social media. And then they launched a podcast called the Modeling Miscreants podcast. That went for a few episodes, and then just everybody didn't see eye to eye on some things, and it just fizzled. And then Rob Riv decided to bring it up again, and we called it the Modeling Insanity. He came to me right away, said, "You want to be part of this?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!" And then it was on from there. I've only missed 2 episodes. Number 1, because I didn't have a mic yet. and then the episode where I was at the IPMS Nationals, so I wasn't really able to record there. But
okay.
And we're like, Riv's primarily World War II German and Russian armor. That's pretty much exclusively what he does. Steve Tooch is our World War I guy. Frank Donati is a fellow Canadian. He lives over in Ontario.
And not to cut you off, but what is Frank Donati's title? I love Frank, and Frank and I have become friends. Those tanks, Jason, that I told you that I was going to send you, and maybe we do for the turkey build. The rest of them that I knew I would never build, I gifted to Frank Donati. But what is Frank Donati's title up there in Canada?
He's president of IPNS Canada.
Nice. He's not some podunk guy from Medicine Hat. We didn't. Rob Riv said that we didn't get the A team, we got the B team. I argue with that because, as a car builder, and Rob Adams can do it all. I'm like, no, we got the A team. We're just not inviting Rob Riv on the show because he's from Long Island. We don't want no Long Island guys on here.
Long Island, yeah. Send me a sticker.
I don't have a Long Island accent, but I got a really good Boston one. We parked the car in the yard.
So our podcast is a little different than most of the other ones, just because we don't censor our stuff. We don't give a shit. It is what it is. We're not kid friendly for the most part. I mean, we don't talk about disgusting things, but there's some adult language in there. So
garage bar type.
Yeah, it's basically like we're sitting around just bullshitting over some beers. You know what I mean? And you try to keep it on topic, of course, but things always get derailed, and Riv will do some rant that has absolutely nothing to do with modeling, but it's hilarious, or whatever. So
I think the last rant I heard him do was and I agree with him. He was all twisted up about somebody copying a build he was doing, and then posting the pictures, and it was just like he kind of made it sound like the guy was stalking him. He was like, he's like, what's wrong with this guy, you know?
Yeah, like all of us aren't afraid to speak our minds, and you know, whether we're right or wrong, it's just the way it is. And I mean, as the podcasts get bigger, you do find out that people are like, "Hey, but you said this," and it's like, "Oh fuck, I might have," you know.
At that time, that's exactly how I felt, and that's the thing about Rob Riv and Rob Adams. I got to distinguish. Riv is going to bust you. He's you know, you go on the Discord or whatever. He's gonna rattle your cage a little bit. But you couldn't ask for a nicer guy. I was talking about, just to give an example, and Rob Adams. I think you were on there the other night. He's an editor for Rob Riv is an editor for a big magazine that you know is armor based, but in their world and he's like the American go-to guy, right? So talking to him, he taught me how to take pictures of my model cars and told me straight up, you know, hey, listen, you want your car in a model magazine, I'll show you and give you advice on how to take pictures of it, how to write an editorial about it, and you send it in. And even if it's a crappy build, but even if it's a my level build, you're going to up your chances, you know, of 75% to be in the magazine based on how you took pictures of it and what magazine people are looking for. You know, he didn't have to do that, man. He just was like wanting to help. So he'll bust your butt and he'll give you a hard time, but that's that Long Island thing, you know, right? He's gonna.
Yeah, and I
What
mean,
a great guy. He really is a good guy.
We don't necessarily all agree on everything, 100% on everything all the time, and that's what keeps it interesting, right? But the one thing that we all do have in common is the love of the hobby and the willingness to help and share with our fellow builders, right? Like you can. I have total strangers DMing me all the time, and you know, what do you think of this, or how would you do this, or whatever, and I take the time and answer them, every single one of them, because I just want to help out my fellow modeler, right? Like it's just.
And that's one thing that's really cool with this community is the people that, you know, will share their techniques and the information. And that's why when Mikey brought it up to us, me and Bruce, that, hey, maybe we can get these guys to come on. I thought, yeah, absolutely. If we can get these guys to teach us car guys how you guys paint and detail, I mean, it's a win-win for all of us, you know?
Yep. I mean, and a lot of it isn't near as hard as you think. You just got to take your time, right?
Yep. Patience.
Take your time and practice. That's all it is. Like the amount of education you can get off of YouTube, you got to filter through a lot of bullshit there too. But the amount of stuff, you know, once you start learning, then you can start filtering out the stuff that you're like, that won't really work for me or whatever, right? But there's so much on there that a modeler is, you know, guys like, this is my third model, and you're like, bullshit, right? But there's so much information out there that they took and used and applied, and now the quality of builds, even at the start, are going way up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And a perfect example of that is, again, I went to the Acme show this last weekend, and old Tom, who is a good friend of ours, a great guy. I'm going to go ahead and say it, an absolute pillar in this community. He's an OBS kind of guy, but you know, if you ask him a question, he's going to answer you honestly. He's not going to sugarcoat it. Yep. But he's an amazing automotive builder, and he's been to these shows, and we collectively have a mutual friend that we're now calling King Sparkles. He's only been in the hobby for, I want to say, 2 or 3 years. Now, he has a 40-year history of working on one-to-one cars, right? So he knows his paint, and he's super good at what he does. And for the last 2 years, he's took, best of show at this Acme show, which is really on the east of the Mississippi, is arguably the biggest show. And But the point is, even Tom has taken lessons from him. So somebody who's been in the top 10 and has best award, even he's like, yeah, this guy is. So you can learn. No matter how good you are or how many awards you won, you can always learn from somebody in this hobby, whether it be tanks, airplanes, or a guy that does better paint than you.
Absolutely. I mean, like when I posted my rat rod, that blew everybody's mind. I built the thing in a week. I built some little built some fuzzy dice for it. I was going to put a raccoon tail on the or a fox tail or whatever on the antenna, but I never got around to it. But I took all my armor modeling skills to weather that thing, because I mean, rat rods are kind of beat up, right? This one wasn't as beat up as what some people were like. I don't know if that's quite a rat rod, but it's close enough, But faded all the paint and did all of that, and that's all from learning how to do armor.
Right.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is you can't be afraid to try. If you don't try, you're never going to get better. You're just not.
Amen. Amen. Even if it's an old scrap body or an old scrap sci-fi thing or whatever, try it. You know what I mean? And work it.
Yeah, and don't be like, oh, I got to let my skills get better before I tackle that model. If you really want to build it, build the fucking thing. You can get another one if you screw it up. You know what I mean?
There's the F-bomb we warned you about, guys. He's passionate. No, don't be sorry. We want you to be you. Yeah, we knew that. We told everybody. We have a family show, but at the same time, we're all still grown people. But that's awesome. I was waiting for it because I was like, I'm waiting for it. I knew it was coming.
Depends what I'm really passionate.
A while ago.
That's what.
Depends when I'm really passionate about something, then it'll come out.
Well, that's that Canada thing, yeah. That's that Canada thing.
Yeah, we swear a lot and we say sorry a lot.
So. Sorry. You don't say sorry. You say sorry. Sorry. Well, at least you're not that. What's that? Kenny Letterman or whatever. What's that Letterman?
Letterkenny.
That's it.
That show's hilarious, man.
That show is absolutely hilarious.
And we've also given you guys Trailer Park Boys. So
Park Boys. That's right. I forgot about those guys.
Yeah, really.
And Brian Adams. You gave us Brian Adams in the 80s.
And Bob and Doug McKenzie. Bob and Doug McKenzie.
Oh yeah.
And Michael J. Fox. Without y'all, there would be no
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. Right.
Yeah.
So, Rob, now your guys' stuff is much larger than ours. So what do you guys do? Do you got like a big hutch that you keep everything in, or how do you store your builds?
I wouldn't say tanks are that much bigger than cars, really. But
what about the planes?
The planes are, yeah. I mean, especially I build 32nd scale, so they're pretty big. But I have two, I don't know, these 6 foot by 4 foot display cases stacked.
Okay.
And then I have those IKEA ones, they're like, I don't know what they are, 16 by 16 or something. They got like 4 shelves in them. Mm-hmm. And that's where I keep the stuff. The big planes all sit on top. And I mean, as you eventually run out of room. And so, hey, man, do you want this model, or put them up on Marketplace and see if anybody wants to buy them? I mean,
and that's what happened to your rat rod, right? Guy in Florida. And I promise it wasn't me. About your rat rod.
Yeah. So do you have a plane? I packed a car and a plane in the same box. The plane was at this weird fucking angle, and I was like, this is never gonna make it there. But it did. He said there was only like 2 or 3 parts he had to glue back on, and it was good. So I was like,
that's awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
So we've been talking about your builds, and we ran some of that little video there. Do you have some of your builds close by that Bruce can put you up on the big screen and you can show them off? I told you to be ready. I'm calling Rob Riv.
I'm hooked to headphones.
He wasn't prepared.
I'm all their clothes on.
Yeah, I'm hooked to headphones.
Right. Oh no, that one was he Star Trek or Bruce?
I could show you the A10 with the Pink Floyd The Wall.
Absolutely.
Yeah, show that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Show that. That is so cool. So while he's getting it, he has an A10 Warthog that he painted up to look like the Brick on the Wall Pink Floyd album cover. Am I right, guys? Yeah, the album cover.
Yeah.
Yep. That thing is so cool.
He's a little dusty, but
all right, there he is.
So that's cool,
dude. All right, but you got to show the bottom is crazy cool.
So if you're a Pink Floyd fan, you'll understand this.
There it is, man. There's the wall.
Hours of masking for a moment of spraying, really.
Yeah. That is so cool, bro.
This was a well-known shitty kit, so I didn't want to correct everything and fix it. So I just like, I'm gonna do a fantasy build instead with it. Then it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
Yeah. We had this conversation. So in our world, and I'm not picking on it, but the 67 GTO from MPC, has the bad label, right? We're not talking bad about it, but it's been known to be
difficult,
right? Good word. And you guys, it's good to hear that you guys have those in that world too, like the one that's a little bit tough to get together.
And that's I believe in letting your creativity out. I'm not opposed to accuracy or anything, but not every build needs to be your last hurrah. Or if you think a Sherman tank's gonna look cool in hot pink, paint it in hot pink. It's your model. You spent the money on it. It's your time. It's your materials. It's everything. So who cares, right?
That's it. Yeah, we don't need no stinking rivet counters.
I mean, certain things, you might set out to make it as accurate as you can, like that, like that Jeep that I did, right? That was the whole point of that Jeep. I wanted that just to do that engine bay and see if I could do it. And like, I put every single wire and hose and pipe that I could see on photos in there, and it's as accurate as I could possibly make it. And I had a good time with that, and it shows up well in the photos and everything. And that was it. And the Jeep's not finished yet. I just built the engine.
So that was something that I could talk to you about that maybe resonates. In the automotive world, especially the smaller the scale, the bigger the scale, you get a little bit more leeway, if you will. But at what point do you think that too much detail starts making the model look busy? Do you have is there such a thing like that in your world? For us, it's like if you try to do everything, it's gonna. For me, I'm like, if you go down that rabbit hole, you got to go down that rabbit hole, or you stay out of it.
Everything needs to be in scale, otherwise, it's the illusion is lost, right? If you got spark plug wires that are as big around, in scale or as thick as your arm, well, that doesn't look good, right?
Right.
So that's what I found was just, that's basically the only extra detail I usually add is like wiring or this or that, right? So I've got tons of different wires and makeup. So, you can have lead wire, but when you're bending it with tweezers or whatever, it's real easy to dent, and then the illusion is lost. So it's all, again, it's one of those things where you just got to dive in and learn, right? And as you do it more and more and more, it's like photo etch. The first time you do it, you're like, you just want to whip this shit across the room and like never again. But if you're tenacious and you just keep going at it, you'll figure it out, right? So
absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to explain some of that to some people that ask questions. I had somebody at a NNL North show ask me about how my wiring looks so much more petite than his, and then when he showed me his model, he basically used this big gauge wire on everything and then was just painting the colors to differentiate the wire. But it was one spool that he got from the hardware store. And I'm like, well, that's what's making everything look too, cloggy and, just gaudy in your engine bays because it's too big, A lot of people don't think about the scale aspect of it. You got to shrink it down and make sure you're not overdoing it, because all the wires in his engine bay was dang, they're bigger than the valve covers on the motor when it came down to it,
Yeah,
and it's like,
you don't want garden
so
hoses. You don't want
no,
garden hoses running to your spark plugs. You got to get
but,
you got to get it right.
but if he did a nice clean job on that, then you can say, listen, you did a nice clean job. Everything's good. Now just go get yourself some different gauges of wire and do it again.
And that's what I told him too, because the first thing he asked me was, "Hey, how did you drill those holes in the heads without chipping the head open?" And I go, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, when I went to drill my heads, the plastic split open." I'm like, "Well, let's look at it." And I looked, and yeah, he had to drill a hell of a hole. So, I'm like, "Yeah, there's your problem." But I was very nice about it, and I just kind of told him, I go, "Well, I buy everything hobby grade as far as that wiring goes, and if I wasn't, I would try to find it in a gauge that is related to the scale."
Yeah, and a good place to go besides a hardware store is like a fly fishing shop. They have all kinds of lead wire, different sizes, lead free stuff that's bendy, stuff that's a little less bendy. Save copper wire from
strands,
old charging cables, whatever. You can pull all kinds of wire out of there, phone lines, so it's all there to be scavenged. You just gotta
take the time and measure it. And I told him, like, and maybe I'm a weirdo, but I have a caliper for models. I mean,
I've got a caliper as well.
Yeah, it just, to me, I'm so used to it from work, and then I can just quick measure it and calculate it and go, okay, yeah, this is the right size. Because sometimes you'll go, yeah, this is measuring right, but it don't look right. So
yeah, and I mean with cars, if you're going to start like detailing them and accurizing them, everybody knows what a car looks like, right?
Yep.
So it's different. Like I can build a tank and fudge stuff all day long, and only the people that know about that tank are going to
know it. Yeah.
Even know there's anything wrong with it. But the average person can walk by a car model and go, that doesn't quite look right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's like, every show I go to, one of those poker chips that we have that we give out for the Modeling Insanity podcast, there's always a car there that's outstanding and gets it. Like, having played around with shiny paint jobs and stuff, it's hard, man. Like, it's a whole nother skill set so if you're tired of playing with shiny shit, come over to the armor world where you can dirty things up and put pigments in and mud and dirt and
Well, and I definitely have a couple real car builds that I want to duplicate that are very patinaed out, and then give away as gifts to some of my friends. But I definitely got to learn how to do it before I'm going to tackle it. So I'll probably buy a crappy kit to try it on, but I still think I want to build a tank or something first, and then try some different colors, because I've never done any browns and tans and any of that. I've never sprayed any of those colors. So,
well, before we get too far off track, Matt Lucas brought up a good point. We're all in the modeling hobby, and it's not that you can't go to the hardware store and bring your micrometer with you, but a lot of times with the effort and the money, the Protec stuff works really good. There's hobby centric stuff, and it doesn't, I mean, Protec's great, that's a good example, but there's a lot of different ones out there. And the other thing I want to bring up, Rob, we brought this up, was it 2 weeks ago, Jason? We talked about the poker chips.
Yeah, we were talking about it because you were educating me on it.
Right. So. I learned it from you guys at the Model Insanity podcast, but correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe you do or don't know. Is that something that the Las Vegas group started? Is there any truth to that, or do you know?
Well, the very first chips that I ever saw was from the Las Vegas group, so it kind of makes sense that they might have been there. Okay, so there's another guy called the Mystery. I think he's called the Mystery Modeler or whatever, and he was giving out challenge coins. He was sort of the first guy to start doing this.
Okay.
Nobody knows who he is. I know who he is because he messaged me about it, but it's a big secret. But the challenge coins are expensive. You're looking at $5-7 a coin. And so people were looking for alternative ways that's much, much cheaper to do it. Right. And this is the way it is. You go to can't even remember what the site's called now.
Well, you can go to and I told Jason the same thing. You can punch in custom poker chips, and there's several websites that'll make them.
Yeah, and they just pound them out. They're nice. They have they got weight inside them, so they're they feel like an authentic poker chip. And you can have different images on the front and back, and it costs you about 50 cents a chip.
Well, I went on and I shared the link with Jason as well. It's all about how many you buy, of course, but I could buy 100 of them with my. At this point, I was putting the live cast on one side, my personal channel on the other side, and it was like $120 for 100 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, 100 of them probably last you a lifetime. You're going to give them out. You're going to dole them out. And
depends.
I know that the Jason, because I was there with Mr. BG this past weekend, they actually got together privately, and BG showed some pictures, and they were like, "Yep, we want to give this guy a coin." And it's not part of the show. It's just like, hey, here we are. This is who we are, and we appreciate what you built.
Yeah. So the peer awards. So
I didn't get one.
There's been lots of discussions whether people think, oh, it's just going to get oversaturated and not mean anything or whatever, and I don't believe that. I think it's
no.
The first shows that I started dropping them off here, because I mean at the nationals and stuff like that, those people knew that this is a thing. It's starting to happen. Well, the local guys here had no clue, and they're like, what is this for? And I'm like, read it. It says I like your build. Right. And it's just and then I'm like, and then I'm like, do you listen to podcasts? Yeah. Well, there you go. Listen to this one. That's what all I ask you to do.
There you go.
And now the clubs are like, man, this is an awesome idea. Like, we could even use the poker chips as the awards, right? For gold, silver, bronze. And I'm like, hell yeah, you could, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I like the idea. I really do, because you might not know somebody, or you might not even know whose model it is, but you can still give them a little recognition.
Yeah. Sure.
Especially like how many cars did they have last weekend? Did you ever get a count?
I did get a count. They were down from the year before. Collectively, we thought it would grow. There was 930 some odd last year, and there was like 860 this year.
That's a lot of cars.
And it's car centric, right? So there's the only thing, and I'll bring this up. I think Matthew Inman and Matthew from or Matt from the Lucasine Matt talked about it in one of
987.
That's what Luca just
987. Okay,
so that's a lot of cars, man.
That's a little bit up from last year. But when Lucas C had Matthew Inman on there, they didn't have any junior. I think it was juniors. They didn't have any. This year they did, and I think they took the advice from those guys, because the only tanks that were there were in the junior department.
Huh.
Sarge, are you still on? Because I think that you're...
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, MRAP or not MRAP or whatever that big thing. Because Sarge, he wasn't in the juniors, but he had a military rig, and it was close to... see, there he is. It was close to their tanks, and there was this little guy, just this little guy that won. I think he had a Sherman, and he won with it. And it was good to see something different in the juniors, so they could be involved. They brought that little guy up, and he got the biggest round of applause out of even.
That's awesome.
Old King Sparkles. He got a round of applause too. It was his Hemet, and it was Sergeant Hemet that was up there. But they brought this little guy up, and the whole building lit up, giving him applause, shaking his little hand, and he's standing up there with the likes of, in our world, big guys, Mark Batson, you name. There was so many awesome builds up there, and he's standing up there with them, shaking everybody's hand. For us, that was so cool.
Yeah.
And remind me about that, Jason, when we go off air. I'll talk to you a little bit about. We'll talk to the president. So.
The juniors. I mean, you got to do that for them. That's
You
how
got
to. That's how you're going to keep them in the hobby, right?
Yep, you got to, and it doesn't matter if they're not. And that's what Matthew Inman and Lucas C were saying was leave it open. Let them bring their Gundams. Let them bring their Pokemon stuff. Let them bring their whatever. Then they're at a show, right? And they're being recognized. Somebody out of that group is going to get recognized. And that's going to make them feel good about the hobby. That's going to, whether they go to tanks or airplanes or do it, become a Rob Adams and do it all, but at least they're involved in the hobby, and that's what we need. The hobby's not dying. I mean, over the last 10 years, I would say it's growing. It's the young people that we gotta get rid of the gatekeepers and get the young people in.
Yeah, I mean, even at our local show, when I first started going to shows, there was a lot of Gundam guys there. I don't know why they quit coming, because it's not like we made them feel unwelcome or anything. And I build Gundam too. I mean, I enter a Gundam in every show I can too. It's just for some reason they feel alienated, and I can see why, like at the IPMS level and stuff like that. But
it's like the automotive guys used to feel when they showed up to an IPMS show, right? There was 6 or 8 cars, and it was dominated by aircraft and armor, because that's what IPMS used to be.
Well, and AMPS was developed because armor wasn't overly welcome there either. So then AMPS was developed, which is the Armor Modeler Preservation Society, and it's the second largest group to IPMS now, at least in the US and Canada. Again, not totally aware of what goes on in the car world, but a vendor showed up at one of the shows this year, and he's selling 3D printed car parts and wheels and all this kind of stuff. He brings it to the show called the Alberta Military Modelers Show and wonders why there's no one there buying his shit. So he says that this is the worst show ever. And it's like, did you even do your homework before you made the big trek and packed up all your stuff to come here? Because
you got to know your market for sure.
It's called Alberta Military Modelers. Military
car parts,
right? If you got some tarps and shit, we'll buy that. But everybody else, like, it's just you got to know your crowd, right? So
that's it. You got to know your market for sure.
Yeah, but, and then the guy goes online and starts talking smack about the show, and it's like, no. So I didn't put up with that. That's when I did get a little mean on the internet.
Now, you bully.
Talking about the show, I don't know how many people are lucky enough to be able to put in an earbud, or in my case, set of headphones, because I'm allowed to have headphones to drown out the noise from the bulldozer. So I have headphones, and I have my phone there, and I plug it in, and I'm able to listen to the podcast. Your guys' podcast speaks to modeling in general, even though you guys are usually airplane or tank centric. Very Justin talks a little bit about cars and whatnot, but it's still a great show to listen to because it's entertaining, right? Like, you guys have a lot of fun, you do some cool stuff, and it's stuff that actually, when you get down to the nuts and bolts, it does relate back to, you can make it relate back to automotive.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, for the most part, I think we pick pretty generalized topics.
Yeah.
To try and obviously appeal to more people, because we're just talking about model building. We're not talking about tanks. I mean, yeah, so sometimes we go off like, it's Panzer Blue, Panzer Gray, whatever, But for the most part, those aren't our main topics. It's like mental health in the hobby, like bigger kind of broader topics that more people can relate to. That's the idea anyways. I don't like it when our topics are super specific.
Yeah.
I think you guys do a great job of reaching out, as far as talking about the general stuff. Everybody has their own opinion, and a lot of you guys are kind of in the same boat. We'll use Krylon for an example, or I don't like picking on Krylon. We'll say hardware store paints. You got your opinion about those. You'll say that they'll work for what you want to do. But if you're trying to get to here, and some people aren't, especially in the automotive world, they're not trying to get to there. They're making it for them. And you know what? If it works for you, we couldn't be more happy for you. But if you put that down next to a guy that, an old Tom, or, who we're calling King Sparkles, and don't be surprised if you don't win, because these guys have taken it to a different level. But if you're building for you and putting it on the shelf and you're happy with it, good for you. And I think that's what you guys, speak to as well. So
somebody just came in like the Kool-Aid man. Ooh, yeah. That's But no, like I was saying earlier, I mean, if something grabs your fancy at the hobby shop, just pick it up and give it a try. You never know, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
I mean, I built armor mostly, and then I ran into a guy at the local show who's now my friend. But when I first talked to this guy, I was like, man, this guy is really arrogant. I mean, he's a good builder, but he's really arrogant. All he does is planes. So I made it my mission to try and dethrone him. Right.
Yeah.
And then I did it eventually. But, in that process, I was like, holy shit, planes are actually pretty fun to build, and then now I've got
whole shelf full.
Yeah, more planes than tanks, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
if you were to guide anybody on a first tank build, what would you recommend as far as model, scale, and brand? What would you recommend?
One of to me tanks, you can't really go wrong. It just depends on what level of detail you want. But as far as ease of build goes, to me is probably the best.
Okay.
Some of the details simplified or molded on and those kind of things, they annoy me. I don't build a lot of Tamiya armor. I build other brands, but another kit is the Trumpeter, and this is 1/35th scale, by the way. Sorry.
Okay.
Armor usually comes in, most people do 1/35th. Lots of people are now getting into the 48 scale. There's just not as much available in the 48 scale. And then some people are crazy and do 72nd scale, which they're like this big.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that.
In our world is a 32nd scale car that Mr. Mark Batson made. And it's oh my God. I can't see the door handles I'm putting on my 24 scale. Never mind trying to put door handles or something like that on them. You got to have some. Well, Mark's got plenty of patience and talent.
Well,
and Mark, of course, Mark's loaded with that. So
here, I'll show you this.
Sarge says 172nd is a pain in the butt. By the way, guys, those tanks I said I was going to send to y'all so we could do for the Thanksgiving thing or the turkey thing.
This is what I'm. This is what I'm currently working on. This is an MRAP. Oops, camera's backwards. There's the full engine and everything's backwards.
Yeah,
full
right.
Engine.
Right.
It's fully detailed. Look at there's everything there. And this thing's got photo. This is not a beginner's kit, believe me. It's a really good kit, but it's not for beginners. The other good beginner kit is a Trumpeter KV1 red box. That kit and it costs you about, I think you can get it for about $30, and it just goes together and it's nicely detailed. You don't have to worry about. You don't stress out about a lot of parts. Some people do, but don't stress about a lot of parts. If the kit is well engineered and it goes together, that just requires patience, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it all depends on what you want to do. But
for me personally, I think I'll probably get a Tamiya, and then put it together, and then I can just worry about focusing more on trying to paint, make the tracks look real, stuff like that, and just kind of build the talents, because then I pretty much know the kit will go together,
Yep. And the 1/48 scale armor is really good for that. You can bang them together in a day, and then just start painting, right?
Yeah.
And they're pretty cool too. The bottom of the hull is made out of metal, so they're heavy.
Yeah.
So they're not very big. A tank is only about like that long. Well, that's a Tiger though, but yeah.
So Rob, our friend Sarge, who is a GI, is GI Mechanics. He's asking, is it the Max Pro MRAP?
No, it's the MATV.
MATV. That probably means something to him. I don't know what any of that means, but I'm sure he'll understand. He's
it's a 4-seater. I think the Max Pro is it's almost like a troop carrier, right? It's
okay.
big.
I don't know.
6-wheeled, I think.
Sarge knows all that stuff, man. He's our guy.
Yes, Luca, I'm still working on it. You bugger.
Yes. I have seen some close-up pictures of that, and to be completely honest, I mean, it's heavier duty and you can see it, but it's no different than, say, any straight axle that you would find in our world, like an old school Chevy or the old school Fords. Especially, I think it's very much got a Ford suspension underneath it. Looking at your pictures, it's coilovers.
This thing Ford does make one.
Okay.
Actually, our police force has one. I don't know why, but this particular one is made by Oshkosh.
But I think as far as converting that over to what we do, if you're building an off-road 4-wheel drive truck, and whether it be an old, say, 79, anything that doesn't have independent front suspension, it's very much the same. Even the newer Jeeps, it's smaller. Obviously, you got a big heavy duty rig there, but it's still the same type of suspension, the same type of stuff. Again, getting into that crossover part, it's different, but it's the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and like I was saying before, I wish that they would take 124th, 125th scale cars and give us the same detail that you can get in 135th. It's just, I don't understand why they haven't done that. I mean, we were talking the other night there, and it's just like, they barely even pop out new kits anymore. It's just, here's a new decal sheet and stick with it, Here, no new rigs from AMT. Like, nobody's making rigs except for I think Mobius popped one out, right?
Yeah.
The Western Star or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And
yeah. They did the I think it's international, but either way. Now that's a company that if you're going to get into and you're, not necessarily a beginner, but somebody with some skills, the Mobius stuff, I'll put it on as far as cars go.
Yep.
I'll put that on the plane with Tamiya. We had a show one time where we talked about our top 5 favorite kits, and Mobius is my top 2. I mean, yeah, they're very detailed, and
I've got the Batman tumbler that they released, and that's a beast of a kit. That box is like this. It's yeah, and that's really cool. But
cool.
throw in the wires and the wiring and provide the holes to put things in, and just it'll make the cost of the kit go up. But if you want a really good kit, just pay for a really good kit and go that route, right? But
yeah. And Matt's making a solid point. The average builder, if you're a model company and you're producing something like that, he knows way more about this than we do because he's been into it, especially on the car centric. That people are just probably wouldn't, but guys like myself and Jason, who is a much better builder than I am, and Bruce, who builds a lot of different stuff, but. I mean, I'm looking at my 67 Charger right now, and I'm going, I got the Revell kit, the aftermarket, which, I want to make my plug, my IcemanCollections.com, the V5 chassis. I'm going to have $100 easy in this kit to try to make it competitive. And then Jason's going to show up with his awesome damn 340 Duster and blow me out of the water. But at the same time, you're going to end up spending it if you're trying to be competitive and you're trying to be detailed or you're trying to step your stuff up, you're going to end up spending that on aftermarket parts to make your stock box look better. Now, it doesn't mean to say that people can't build it straight out of the box and make it competitive and make it a winning model.
Oh, right.
But yeah, because it happens both ways. But when you suck, you throw extra parts at it, and hopefully they give you credit because they see the money that you spend on it.
Well,
at least that's my motto.
That's one thing I've always maintained. It's like you can't buy your way to an award-winning model, because if you can't execute that stuff, it just doesn't work, right? Like you look at Model Factory here, I think it's Model Factory Hero kits. Those things are like $300-400, right?
Yeah.
But it's all the white metal, like you get everything in there, but not everybody can afford one of those, obviously, right? But by the time you buy a car and you bought all the aftermarket for it, what are you at now? $100?
That's
right?
what I was saying.
Yeah.
If you're at that level, can you buy it all in a box and not have to wait for this or wait for that? Get it all in the box, take it out of the box, put it together. And like a Ming, you said you like the one ninth scale Ming motorcycle kits.
Yeah.
I found a 1/12 scale Ming GT40, and I had been looking at that kit. That was an amazing kit. But I got sticker shock when I saw it. And this was at a show at 275. I've seen them north of 500, and I got a sticker shock on it. But even I didn't buy it. But even I told myself, I'm like, you don't have to do anything to it, but put together correctly what's in the box. You don't have to buy anything for it. You put it together like it is in the box. You're going to have at least a competitive, or at least something that you can, show your friends and be proud of. Which you should do that with all your builds. But I'm just saying, as you grow in the hobby and you want to be more competitive, I could show that if I built it right, I could show it to Jason and be like, I got something that's cool too.
And then I'm going to say, who did you buy that from?
True story.
My problem is that I always go down the rabbit hole because I like the scratch build. So I got to scratch build something on my builds, whether it's rear suspension, front suspension, whatever. That's just me. And it ends up costing me way more time because then you're like, since I'm doing this, I should do this. And, it's just.
But that's how you get better.
Right. Right.
Like,
and you try to put your best foot forward all the time, and then it sucks.
It does. You can get bogged down in a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
I did a Mini Art D7 bulldozer.
Oh, dude.
And that's in 1/35th scale. The engine alone had 127 parts. It's only this big.
Oh my God.
I've seen pictures of it. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I have too.
Which is more than most
kits
have, right? But that's Mini Art. But you got to know what you're getting into. Like, that's the thing especially with armor and stuff. If you don't know your manufacturers and that, you might be buying something that's way out of your league or expectations at that time, right? Like, so it does behoove you, if you especially want to get into a new genre, to start doing a little research before you just go buy a kit, because you might just be wasting your money. It might be way too much kit for you, or not what you were looking for at all, right? So,
hey, Rob, I got a kit for you. It's on its way.
Well, Rob, and I heard you guys talking about this on the Discord. Mini Art is like a layers kit. Like it's what verbiage did you guys use? Like, if you put it together out of the box the way it's supposed to be done, then you end up with a really nice kit. And just for the record, Mini Art makes a lot of 31. I'm actually building a Mini Art kit. Is it Mini Art or Mini Craft? Yeah, Mini Art. I'm building a 30. They build a lot of, like, I guess they got a mold for a 31 Ford, because they've got like a crap ton.
No,
a really
that's
cool
not Mini Art.
Ford.
Mini Art doesn't do cars.
Mini
must be something else.
Might be Mini Craft then.
Yeah, maybe Mini Craft. Mini Art is pretty much it's civilian, but mostly military stuff.
Mine might be. Now you got me
the
looking.
Kits are nice, Kevin.
Like, if it's a part in real life, they make it a part in a model. Just
wow.
Just make, nothing is simplified. It's literally it's like you're building the real thing. They take a lot of time. One of their downfalls is that their plastic is very soft yet brittle, if that makes sense.
That's
and they have big sprue gates. So when you're doing, like, because they give you all the linkages for the shifters, everything ties into the transmission. Like, there's no imagination there. The part is there.
Mm-hmm.
and you break lots of that fragile stuff just because of the plastic. It takes some getting used to on how to clean those parts up and everything, and I clean up every part. I'm not one of those guys that you'll never see it, so I'm not going to bother with the mold lines and stuff. I clean up all my parts because I photograph everything along the way, right?
Right.
Okay.
Because once the car's on the shelf or whatever, I've still got all the photos, not only to prove that I did it, but I'll weather everything, even though like that whole frame there, that's going to be covered up by a big armor plate underneath that MRAP. You won't see any of that stuff. You could literally, if you didn't want to have the hood open, you could leave the engine, the drivetrain, everything out, and you would never see it when the model's done. But I still do it anyways because it's practice.
And you know it's there.
Yeah, and you know it's there.
Yeah.
And I got the pictures to prove it. Right?
But that big tank that you built, that armor tank, that thing is awesome.
Like you want to see big tanks? I'll show you a 16th scale tank. Hold on. I'll show you what a big tank is.
This is exactly why I wanted to get Rob on here. He builds some crazy stuff that looks awesome. And Rob Riv, if you're listening or you're listening down the road, you can call him the B team if you want. Rob Adams is the A team.
There's a big tank.
Oh my God.
Look at that thing, man.
That looks like an RC car.
Right? That thing is amazing. Oh, gotta put his earbud back in so you can hear it.
So this thing's a monster. This thing weighs like 8 pounds.
Holy moly.
But
my goodness.
It's also a full interior, right?
Oh,
everything's inside it.
Wow.
I'm not going to take the whole thing right apart right now. But
yeah, I don't know that.
How
long did that take you to build?
I built this in 29 days.
Damn.
I can't pick a color in 29 days.
I won't have my USAC built in 29 days.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I
got like 4 motors to choose from. It's going to take me 29 days to pick out a motor to put in my USAC build.
Yeah, no, it was a race for a show, and I was trying to quit drinking and shit at the time, so I had all kinds of energy that needed to be used up, right? So,
right.
And it was the first one I'd ever done like that, and it's so big. I was like, man, this is amazing. You go through a lot of paint though.
Right.
I bet. Yeah.
We had this conversation in our little pregame show that we did, and to translate it back to what we do, you made a point that I thought was really cool. The bigger the scale of the model, the more you have to pay attention to how right it is. All right. I mean,
correct.
Yep.
Right? You got more surface to be examined.
Well, and like, you don't want it to look like a toy, right? So the weathering and everything really comes into play. Like even say on that Meng 1/12 scale car, right? Unless it's right off the showroom floor, I would still weather the frame. I would put a little bit of dirt in the engine compartment. I would wear the tires down a little bit. You know, those are the details that take it from looking like a toy to an actual model or something realistic, right? Put a little dirt at the bottom of it. You know what I mean? It's
right. Yeah, it makes it look real.
Yeah. Like this Porsche 911 GT1, I'm on the fence. Like, do I want to make it at the end of the race and have it, a little bit beat up or so? I'll probably end up doing that just because that's my jam, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I do that on the bottom of my drag cars. I'll put, like some weathering of like carbon dust underneath from where the exhaust is or from the brakes and stuff like that. Just, from cleaning my real car, I kind of know where it collects. So then I kind of mimic that in the frame stuff. So,
yeah. And I mean, on like when you're doing bikes, you can like the 1/9 scale, the discs are actually metal, right? So you can toss those in a drill and scratch them up like they're actually being used, and you don't see that detail until you get real close. But that's the whole point of super detailing is that you want to draw that person in. First of all, you want the nice paint job, and then they start looking closer, and then they're like, oh wow, look. Those are the things that impresses the people, the masses, as well as the judges, right?
Sure.
Yep.
But just because everything can open up and you can see everything, if you haven't done a good job on everything inside, then it doesn't matter.
Right, yeah, it's all for naught. Yeah.
Right.
But Rob, I don't know if you know, but Jason is our in-house Mopar specialist, model car specialist, and 1-to-1 specialist. He has some sweet 1-to-1 race cars. He's a drag guy, street drag guy. Our current USAC build that we're all involved in is a 68 Dart. He has a 1-to-1 68 Dart. So people have been contacting him and, what about this and what about that and how do I do this? I'm sure his phone's been blowing up, his email's been blowing up, but
Go
he
get
can
the
take
Haynes
it to the
manual.
1-to-1 and take a picture of it and send it to you.
I'm the real life Haynes manual. So.
Right?
You know what's cool about Haynes manuals is you can actually, I don't know when they started doing it, but you can get them for like armor and shit.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that either.
It's like a full-on Haynes manual. I don't know if it's meant to be like you can use this book to fix your tank. I'm not sure if it's like that, but I mean, it's still this thick about a particular tank, and I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff in there that would be valuable material. I've never looked at them, but
what a great resource, right?
Yeah.
The big thing that I've gotten is all body panel stuff. So like I've sent some guys pictures of the insides of the doors without the door cards on there. The underside of the trunk was this week. I had a couple guys that said, hey, can you send me pictures of the underside of a trunk? Which is all great. I enjoy the heck out of it, helping these people with their research. So
that's the thing.
For me, I actually told this story earlier today. For me, I was able to hang out with, I'm going to back up a little bit, but I was able to hang out with Mr. BG this weekend. And I told him when I last saw him, I'm like, hey, text me that you guys got home safe. We're all leaving the show and want to know that everybody got home okay. And Mr. BG texts me and he's like, hey, I made it home. We made it home. Thanks for the laughs. And I sent him back LOL and he sent me a question mark. I'm like, nobody has ever sent me a text message after hanging out with me for a weekend and said, thanks for the stimulating conversation. No, they all said, thanks for the laughs. I'm pretty sure he looked at my 5 cars that were on the show, and that's probably where he got laughing.
No, and I think if you're going to put yourself out like what we're doing right now, you have to respond to these people. That's what you're putting yourself out for, right?
Yep.
You get some asshole on there, well, whatever, block, delete, see you later. But for the other people, like that's
the good outweighs the bad. That's for sure.
We can't put a fence around ourselves and protect ourselves from the public or whatever you want to call it, right? Like,
yeah.
So if somebody sends you a message, answer the damn thing.
Yeah.
We recently went through a little bit of stuff, and Jason and I and Bruce all put our heads together, and you said the same thing. Haters are going to hate, right? Let them hate. Yep. I like to keep my enemies close and whatever, but haters are going to hate, and we don't get into all that drama stuff. But if they leave something that they don't like, hey, they didn't like it, wasn't for them. Move on.
Yeah.
Scale model Muse said, "Send me the assholes. I'll deal with them."
And she will.
She will.
Marcy is an OBS kind of chick, buddy. She will. She will dang sure tell them all about themselves. Yep.
I think
that's a confrontation you don't have
at some point.
That's a confrontation. You don't
she said,
have.
and then she says, "They will cry."
They will.
And she's right.
She's not wrong.
Come on over to Model Makers Union. I'll make you a moderator.
There you go. Ta-da!
You're hired.
Well, we said, Rob, when we first started talking to you, we said this thing would go for about an hour, but depending on how well it was going, clearly it's going very well because we have officially made the longest live that we've ever done at an hour and 39 minutes.
Yeah. You know, it was really weird. Right at the start when it was doing the countdown, my phone was 5 seconds behind my computer.
Oh, really?
It seems to be live now, but when the countdown was happening on both devices, it was 5 seconds delayed.
When it starts, the phone is delayed big time. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's when I said, "Oh, this is only going to be an hour." I don't know.
Yeah, but we did say it wouldn't be a 3-hour, model insanity podcast or a model, the scale model car podcast either. But he does, very good, Luca. You're right. He does that. He does tend to drag it on, but you have a definitely.
I'll be talking with you later, Luca.
That's it. But you have definitely crossed the bridge for us, Rob, and I can't thank you enough, man. You showed some really, really cool stuff and brought some things to light. Is there anything that you would like to share that's different from what we've talked about? And if not, that's fine. But is there anything that you'd like to share? Tell us. Obviously, we want to hear about, we know about Model Insanity, and talk to us about all that. And if there's anything that you want to share personally or about whatever, let's hear what you got to say.
I just, like I said, don't pigeonhole yourself. Don't be afraid to try new things. Do research. If there's something you really want to learn how to do, go on YouTube, go wherever, check out the resources and learn how to do it. Yeah. It's never going to be perfect the first time you do it. Understand that, right? That's very important. It's, how come I don't have an award-winning model? Well, it's the first one you built. You need to learn, right? And don't get frustrated. I mean, I know that a lot of people are afraid of picking up an airbrush. And yes, it's very frustrating at the beginning. You're not going to master that thing right away. There's a learning curve, but you have to be tenacious. And as model builders, we're supposed to be patient, and learn things, right? And that's how you'll get better. And I know it's frustrating, and that's why I quit building models the first time, right? Because there was no resources. I wanted my things to look this way, but I couldn't produce it because, well, I didn't have an airbrush, and well, I didn't have access to these things, and there was no magazine. I mean, there was Fine Scale Modeler, but that didn't. It just showed me all the stuff that I needed to get still, right? And yeah, I mean, when you have nothing, you get creative and you try different things that way too. Just because I want it to look like this, how am I going to do it? Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, the resources are out there. Pick a subject, you can find endless amounts of information about it usually, and just stick with it. Don't give up. It's just.
I agree. Necessity 100%. Is the mother of innovation. That's for sure.
Right. And some people are completely happy just glue bombing and spraying and stuff. And that's fine too. Right.
Yeah.
But when somebody asks, what can I do better? Or what went wrong here or whatever, it's up to us to try and guide them in the right direction in a nice way,
Right. Because there's channels out there that they show what they're doing, but they don't really explain to the people, or they don't answer people's questions, and that's kind of sad to see.
Yeah, it was just like one post I seen today on I think it's the Beginner Modelers group or whatever it's called. The guy's going, I want to paint red. What's the best color primer? So Justin and I both went for the same thing. Pink. Pink is the best primer, and it works for under yellow as well. Very well. And the guy's like, oh, I don't do pink. And it's like, and he's an anonymous poster. I'm like, why the fuck is this guy even posting anonymously about a pink question? I mean, I don't get it. But anyways, and I'm just like, well, if you don't want to, if you don't like the advice or don't want to take the advice, then why did you ask the question?
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw that, Bruce. Thanks for posting that up. Dirt Road Cinderella says, we need to have you on quarterly. I'll have you know that nobody has ever said that about any of our guests. So look at you, Mr. Canada.
Look at you go.
Hey, right? Thanks.
Throws a couple F-bombs, and now he's the king of the
show. Nice part of the show. Great.
I think it was only 2, maybe 3.
It was 2 that I heard.
2. I think it was 2.
If y'all want to get more F-bombs, all you got to do is go to the Model Insanity Discord. And if he's got his head down and his visor on, you're not going to hear nothing because he's working.
That's right.
But as soon as you hear that infamous that sound of a can opening up, you're about to get all your F-bombs.
No, but I've dedicated a lot of my time to learning this stuff, and even Riv will say, you're the most knowledgeable guy on this podcast, because that's all I do is absorb information. I try, right? And I'll give it a shot. If it ruins my model, well, I've never really ruined a model. I mean, you kind of know where you might, better not go that far. But
or he's smoking a brisket. Matt said, or he's smoking a brisket. If he's smoking a brisket, he's probably not talking too much.
No, that is my other hobby.
Yeah, I've seen. This is going to sound awkward as all get out, but I've seen your meat, and you do a great job.
Yeah,
That does sound kind of creepy.
I prelimed it.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys, we are creeping up on an hour and 45 minutes, and I know we've taken a bunch of Rob's time. I just want to say thanks, Rob, for coming on. We appreciate you, man. And listen, Dirt Road Cinderella hit the nail on the head. We'd like to have you back again. I'm sure we got. He won't shut up. Matt's busting your biscuit, buddy. He won't shut up. And maybe next time we'll send the link to Riv so he can come in and rattle your cage a little bit. But
Sure.
dude, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much, sir.
It was a blast. Sorry we went over,
Rob.
but
No, you're sorry, man. I told you it goes as long as it goes. We don't shut it off until it's time. But
no, and I hope that we, it maybe inspired somebody to try something a little different or whatever,
Yeah, that's it.
So
it's fun. So before we sign off,
turkey shoot, you guys.
There you go. I was going to say, talk to us about what you got coming up. Talk to us about turkey shoot. Where can you find it? How do you get involved? What do you got to do? What we touched on it earlier.
It's the same thing. You got to go to the Modeling Insanity Discord. We'll have a room open there. It's actually called the Gobble Room. And it starts at midnight on the Thursday and goes till midnight on the Sunday. You have to post a picture of the kit unstarted, and that's the only rule. Doesn't matter scale, subject, nothing. We don't care.
We're familiar with that. We do that. Yeah. We do that on our
just build a model and have fun. Everybody's in and out. There's family dinners and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
I just tell my family it's turkey shoot, and they're like, okay, you're not going to see me.
Well, two things I want to say about that Discord, the Model Insanity Discord. First and foremost, keep the kids away. But secondly, go to it and check it out because it's a lot of fun. It is grown up talk in there, and everybody's kind of free because it's not recorded. But those guys, y'all are on there most every night. I'm sub to a bunch of different Discords, and I find myself on yours, although I'm the car guy. I'm not even a good representative from that group, but I find myself on there quite a bit because you guys are always on there, which I think is really, really cool. Learning stuff from you guys, getting different information. So everybody go check that out. Obviously, the Scale Model Car Podcast has a Discord. Y'all go check that out too. We love those guys, Matt, Jason.
While Luke is still on here, there he is promoting the hell out of the Lucas C Model Car Podcast Discord. And I'm on that Discord, and I've never seen a person in there. So get on it, Luke.
I'm gonna say get on it. I've been on it a few times. I know Jason's been on it a few times, and
maybe it's just at different times. But yeah, I've never seen anybody in there yet because I'm waiting, and I want to go in there and bust some balls over there too.
well, the next time you get ready to go on there, let me know. I'll make a post, and hopefully we can get BG or Jay. I know BG has a full schedule, and Jason is like everybody else. He's working hard, and Matt's retired, so he doesn't have an excuse. So we can bust his balls. But and Chuck, he's always trying to kill something this time of year. He's a big game hunter. So
good. Well, yeah, I mean, it's been a real pleasure being on here.
Thank you.
This is only my second time being on something else that's not our podcast, so I rather enjoy it. And
thank you.
Keep coming in the rooms. You guys can come in the rooms too. I mean, sometimes we get 20, 25 people in there. It gets
busy.
It can get busy, and it's fun.
Yeah. We'll be in for the Thanksgiving one for sure.
So. Excellent. Yeah, there'll be a lot of people in there this year. I think we've done a pretty good job promoting it. So I think it's going to go well. And who knows who you'll meet, right? You might meet your next best friend on there. You don't know.
Yeah. You never know. You never know. You might meet Rob Riv. That gives you somebody to throw rocks at.
There you go.
So y'all go check it out. It's the Model Insanity Podcast, and then the Model Makers Union is Rob's personal Facebook page. There's a lot of people on there, a lot of really, really cool stuff. This is the old Outlaw saying goodnight, and this is my co-host Jason.
Good night, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.
And Mr. Bruce.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, chat. We appreciate you guys. Y'all be good at it, and keep on modeling. 2 big old thumbs ups.